Good afternoon, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com, here with your Hurricane and Hurricane HD video blog for Thursday, June 21st, 2012. Glad you could join me for this particular look at the tropics. As we zoom into the map here, the graphical tropical weather outlook, getting pretty active out there. We see what is now Hurricane Chris. We'll take a look at that in just a minute. A little bit more active intertropical convergence zone out here off of Africa. Should see a pretty strong tropical wave come off of here over the next week or so and start to move its way westward. And of course, we'll be watching this area in the extreme southeast Gulf near the Yucatan Channel very closely for the possibility of tropical storm formation after the weekend. So as we start looking around the different satellite pictures here, we still have this trough of low pressure here, this focusing mechanism, but we may be starting to see low pressure sort of pinch off from that and organize separately. And you can tell that the convection is starting to get that more concentrated appearance. It's not just clusters of it like you see here, and then some here, and some here. This is starting to get more concentrated, and for me, that's the first sign that I look for if we're going to have any kind of development. I still think it's going to be fairly slow, i.e. several days, but the ingredients are starting to line up. Here's a much closer perspective, and that blob of convection now down here along the Yucatan Channel and vicinity. This whole mass is supposed to move into the central Gulf of Mexico, where water temperatures are very warm, and the upper level winds are forecast to become more favorable for development. Speaking of that, this is the upper level wind chart from the University of Wisconsin. Here is the feature that we're looking at, the convection, and there is the upper level anticyclone trying to develop over the top of it and nudge its way up into the Gulf of Mexico just a little bit. Upper level winds out ahead of it, still fairly strong though, and in one direction. What we're looking for is to see if the winds fan out in all directions while this thing sits underneath this disturbance. Until that happens, as long as the wind keeps blowing over the top of it, it's going to have a hard time to develop. It still has some of that going on here, but those upper level winds are relaxing. If we look at the shear tendency map, also from the University of Wisconsin, I know it's hard to see what's going on. This is the Yucatan Peninsula right here, and there is the western portions of Cuba. And right here where the system is starting to take shape, the shear has been decreasing by about 10 knots, 5 to 10 knots of decreased vertical wind shear. The difference between the wind speed as you go up in height. Hurricanes and tropical storms like to have the wind fairly uniform at all levels of the atmosphere so that the air can come up through the middle and all those clouds and convection and be evacuated away efficiently. That process, as slow as it may be, is starting to happen in the Gulf of Mexico, and it won't take too much for this to develop and possibly become our next tropical storm. And it would do so over 82 degree water. All this yellow in here, that sort of mustard color, is 28 degrees Celsius or about 82 degrees Fahrenheit. And right now it's sitting over parts of the loop current where water temperatures are very warm. It's not on this side of the scale, actually, it's on the other side of the scale. They just don't have it shaded. Trust me, the water temperatures right here for these purples and these purples is not 24 degrees. It's more along the lines of 29 to 30 degrees Celsius in parts of the Gulf of Mexico. So definitely a lot of warm water to work with in this region. Where it will go and how strong it will be, I'm not going to speculate right now. That wouldn't be responsible because there's no low-level circulation to track. We don't even have a well-defined low. The computer models are going to suggest everything from perhaps into Florida, maybe going into Texas, and many, many points in between. We know early on that a lot can happen, and it is prudent just to keep track of what's going on a day-to-day basis, at least until the computer models can give us a better idea of what's going on, and they need a vortex or a low-level circulation to track. And once they can ingest that information, we should start knowing more about where this might end up as it slowly develops. The good news is I think it will be a slow process. That can work against you though, because it would have time perhaps to intensify. We might be looking at a solid tropical storm somewhere along the Gulf Coast. So I'd say certainly anywhere from Tampa all the way over to Corpus Christi. Everybody in here needs to keep an eye on this, as you would, right? You would keep an eye on this just to see what it's going to do and prepare accordingly. Now, Chris, I wanted to show you this really nice satellite picture from the National Hurricane Center. This is Newfoundland up here, and Chris, Hurricane Chris, the first one of the season, over 21 degree Celsius sea surface temperatures, very low 70s if I'm not mistaken. 26 degrees is 79 Fahrenheit, so 21, 22 would be in the low 70s. Wow, it really took advantage of what instability and heat energy that there was in existence over the Atlantic here. Just goes to show you, look at that well-developed eye, that sometimes these tropical systems can break the rules and do their own thing. At least it's not going to affect any land areas. In fact, Chris will probably just kind of sit out here and loop around for a little bit, and the stable, well, you would think the stable air mass out here would eventually do it in. So we'll see. We do have our first hurricane of the season, and it's way out in the Atlantic, not going to bother anybody except shipping interests. All right, I will be off tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday for a weather balloon project that I am doing with CNN to study how to launch a balloon into a hurricane. That's our side of it. We're actually contributing to their project, and it's a partnership. So there's no video blog from me tomorrow, Friday, or on Saturday. However, they will resume on Sunday as we get closer to what's going to be happening with the system in the Gulf. That'll be important. I might be able to shoot something, at least with my iPhone, and upload it. That's not out of the question over the next couple of days. But the organized studio look to the graphics and whatever I won't have access to until Sunday. Alright, so just keep that in mind. Again, I'm Mark Sudduth, my website, hurricanetrack.com. Thank you very much for watching, and I will keep you posted one way or another over the next couple of days, and then another full update on Sunday.